Well, agriculture is an important sector of Nigeria's economy with a high potentials for employment generation, food security, and poverty reduction. It's often said that Nigeria's high inflation is majorly driven by high food inflation. It is therefore pertinent for Nigeria to begin to look for ways to transform its agriculture sector into a leading player in global food markets and accelerate achievement of food and nutritional security. And one way many experts are advocating is the use of biotechnology in food production. To speak more on this is the country coordinator, Open Forum for Agricultural Biotechnology, Dr. Rose Gidado. Thank you very much, Mrs. Gidado, for joining us on the program. We do appreciate your time.
Thank you for inviting me to Business Morning.
You're welcome. Okay, Open Forum on Agricultural Biotechnology has been at the forefront of advocating the use of biotechnology, not just in Nigeria, but Africa as a whole. So why is this important at this time, and where is Nigeria in all of these?
Thank you very much for this very important question. Advocating for the use of biotechnology in Nigeria is actually very, very important and critical, especially in the midst of the looming food crisis that we're in, the climate change challenges, and then disease outbreaks, of course, challenges like the COVID-19 pandemic, where the world have been experiencing, I can say, restricted movements, limited travels, especially in 2020, and I think we're still on it with the new variant that has come in place. So we're still contending with some of these issues. So the Open Forum on Agricultural Biotechnology is actually a platform, platform to correct the misconceptions of this modern technology, that is biotechnology, cutting edge technology that is actually very useful, very beneficial. Other countries have used it, and they are all food secured, So the Nigerian chapter has actually been at the forefront. That is where we are. We are at the forefront of driving Nigeria through her talents and ceaseless, advocacy programs, education, sensitization activities, for more than a decade. It was launched in 2009, and we've been in it. We've been at the forefront in Africa. Nigeria, I think, is the foremost country and is leading in this advocacy program. And it's all because of the emergency in food security. Food insecurity is actually on the high, on the high rise. And so in Africa especially, we have not gotten it right at all in the area of food production. Our agricultural productivity has actually been very low. And then, of course, adopting new technologies that can help us meet that, food security is actually been a problem. Policymakers have been inundated, with contradictory information here and there about the technology. So its adoption has been very, very slow in Africa. And so that's why we can't meet it. We cannot meet food security. It's difficult, except we have to adopt these new technologies, make them our own. We can indigenize, we can domesticate, make them our own, then improve our crops, our own indigenous crops. And that's what the scientists in Nigeria have actually been doing. So
all right.
I'm also aware that currently the Global Hunger Index 2021 has rated Nigeria as one of those countries with very serious hunger. In 2020 alone, 811 million people went to bed hungry worldwide, and many more are going to bed hungry, especially here in our country, in Asia and Africa and what? And some are dying from hidden hunger, from chronic hunger. So, and the reason is, of course, scarcity of food, and the quality of the food is not there, inability to buy food at an affordable rate, So, so the prices of the food are going high because of scarcity. Of course, scarcity, causes the price to go high and what? And the scarcity is due to so many reasons in Nigeria. We have the post-harvest losses.
Mrs. Gidado.
Activity.
Yeah, yes. Mrs. Gidado. Now, agricultural biotechnology, of course, we know ensures higher yielding, quick maturing, and so we have what is genetically modified food, which some experts say, I mean, this is really not healthy for human. So how do we comprehend this? How can we, how important is this genetically modified food when, I mean, a lot of people are arguing that it's not healthy for our system?
They are actually very healthy. I have no issue with that because this has been demonstrated in other countries like the US, Canada, Brazil, Argentina, that have been using it, for over 20 years, and there hasn't been any case found against that technology, that whether it has caused harm or it has killed anyone. It's been adopted for over 25 years, not even over 20, but over 25 by those countries, and they are well food secured because they undergo a lot of scrutiny. They're the most scrutinized foods in the history of mankind, because you're modifying, and you're modifying at least for the comfort of mankind. Their population is on the rise all over the world, and Nigeria's own is geometrical. So if we don't think out of the box, to get food, enough for our teeming population, the death rate will be on the rise, I tell you. Because,
okay.
These days, many are going to bed hungry. There's malnutrition. We have deaths, we have what? There are so many things. And so there's no any GM that has posed any risk at all. I've not seen it because of the scrutiny. They are highly regulated. And in Nigeria, we have a regulatory agency, the National Biosafety Management Agency, is saddled with the responsibility of ensuring that the adoption of these foods, or what the scientists are doing, of course, they have to work within the laid down standards. And the standards for these are being progressively developed by WHO, by FAO. They have done their own endorsements, they have carried out their own risk assessment and awards. So it's not like a one person thing. It's a combinatorial approach. Because I am modifying it, I have to ensure, as a scientist, scientists are very responsible people. We're also part of the consumers, of course. So we cannot do anything that will actually cause, havoc, or be at high risk to human beings. Then you haven't done anything. So we make sure that all these regulatory bottlenecks and what, of course, we have to work within, the safety standards that have been laid down. Those safety standards, the way drugs are developed, with high regulation, that is how these foods, of course, crops and whatever, are being developed. And you know that most of our crops, like the cassava, the cyanide, they have allergens in them. They have toxins in them. Our natural crops, the cassava, the cyanide in cassava can kill you in minutes. The aflatoxin in groundnut and maize. So, and you can use this technology to remove those toxins. Of course, you can use the technology to actually make some things like the vegetables, like the fruits, delay the ripening process so that you'll be able to transport, tomatoes, the vegetables, so you'll be able to also keep them on your shelf, for a longer period of time, because the high perishability is another thing, causes another cause of post-harvest loss. So the technology, has a lot of advantages, I tell you, and benefits.
Okay, Mrs. Gidado. Open Forum on Agricultural Biotechnology is an advocacy group. You did mention Nigeria, of course, is currently going through food inflation and disruptions in the agri sector.
Yes.
As an advocacy group, what sort of conversation, seeing what is happening right now in our agricultural system, what kind of conversation are you, is a group having with the government as to, implementing the biotechnology and improving food security in Nigeria?
Of course, the conversation we're having with government is telling them, of course, carrying out, educating people, the policymakers, those high-level people that have high influence, especially when it has to do with policy, policy and then policy implementation and all those things, trying to tell them about the advantages and how other countries have made it. If you remember, Nigeria and Brazil and Argentina were on the same, level those days in terms of food production. But today, Brazil is far, far ahead, of Nigeria. And then Argentina, they export. But we in Nigeria, we're still lagging behind. So large-scale adoption of crops can help the country at this critical time, especially with these challenges, the COVID-19, that brings about limited travels and what, and then we have the climate change effect. Then it will mean that you're going to be planting high-yielding varieties of seeds on a small piece of land, and then reap high, harvest. Your harvest, of course, you will have bumper harvest and all, harvest more on a little land, of course, small amount of seeds, and then you harvest more. So with biotech crops, it is not about how large your farm is, of course, but how prolific, is the material you're planting, how resilient is the seed you're planting. In the midst of the climate change, we actually need seeds that have been improved, that have quality in them, that can give you, when you plant, all of them will germinate, that are smart, climate smart, even in the midst of either drought or flood, they can all, you can actually use biotechnology to achieve all these things. We have an example. We have a tailor maize, a maize that has been improved, to resist insect and then drought and all these things, to be drought tolerant. For instance, we'll be giving farmers about 10 tons per hectare as against 4 to 6 tons per hectare. It's currently harvested in the country. It's been it has been deregulated. What we're waiting for in the next 2 to 3 years, we're waiting for Varietal Release Committee to actually approve it. So the issue here is that biotech crops usually, they address issues or challenges that cannot be addressed by the conventional technology, by, the traditional farming. It's complementary. It's a complementary approach. It complements the traditional breeding methods. And you cannot finish a life cycle of a biotech crop that's been developed without, using the traditional tool. So they complement each other. Technology had actually evolved with time. So we need the policymakers, those, to really understand. And, the OFAP is actually being hosted by a government agency. So it's a government thing. An agency, that's the National Biotech Development Agency, that is also saddled with the responsibility of promoting and then the biotechnology in Nigeria, and also coordinating, carrying out research and development. And it's not just NABDA, of course, we have the Agri-Research Institutes that are also into the development of these crops. And so we're trying to domesticate the technology and then make it our own, So that is what we're actually doing. And I think government has taken it up, because when they established the NABDA, they also established the National Biosafety Management Agency. So I think government is already convinced, because we import from Brazil, we import from Argentina, we import from US. And I tell you, the corn that we import, 95% of corn in US is GM. And then over 90% as well, corn from Argentina or Brazil, they're all genetically modified. So what do you think? So why can't we also do our own, make it in our own way, adopt it and indigenize it?
All right,
Let's
Dr.
address
Gidado.
the our local crops have.
Sure. Before I let you go, the federal government recently introduced biotech cowpea in Nigeria. How has that fared? And are there other seedlings they are working with or have potentials for biotechnology?
Yeah, the cowpea, the pot borer resistant cowpea, that's the beans, they call it Sampi 20T, is faring very well. Farmers are excited about it. Farmers are happy. They're so excited because of its smartness, it's climate smart, it's high yielding as well. And then production cost is minimized. Instead of doing 10 sprays, of course, as with the traditional, the conventional cowpea, you can only do 2 sprays. And the 2 sprays targets those insects that the crop was not developed for. So that has been settled. Everyone, I think it's the first time in history when the seeds were launched. I tell you, in 2 weeks, the next 2 weeks, the seeds were finished. Only 3 companies, I think, were given the license to handle seed distribution. And I tell you, everyone rushed for those seeds because each farmer that had experienced the seeds during the trial period, that's the establishment of demonstration trial period, every farmer was happy, and they're still happy, and they're still excited. And so then we have other crops that also are in the pipeline. Teller maize has been deregulated, it's coming up in the next 2 years. And then we have the newest rice. The newest rice has been developed for nitrogen use efficiency. That's to tell you that if you were using 5 bags of fertilizer, you can only maybe do 2 bags of fertilizer per hectare or so. And then it's also drought tolerant, and then as well salt tolerant. Okay. So it has 3 types. So it's going to be very useful. And then we have the herbicide tolerant soybeans, and then we have a biofortified sorghum, we have a cassava. Vica Plus is developed for disease resistance, and then as well nutritional enhancement. So that at least that can help malnutrition.
All right, let's just hope we get it right eventually and improve our food security in the country. Thank you very much, Dr. Gidado, for being part of the program today. We do appreciate your time.
Thank you. I also appreciate